Welcome to Lesson 73, Math Marvels. I'm Sarah, and we're going to talk about box and whisker plots today. I love these. They're great in statistics for looking at data. So as I'm working through these problems, watch how I can identify the maximum, minimum, and the median in a data set, and how I use information to calculate the first and third quartiles and the IQR, which is known as the interquartile range. And finally, watch how I demonstrate how to draw a precise box and whisker plot. A box and whisker plot is another way of showing the distribution of data. But instead of showing every single data point, we are just looking at the data in clumps. Really, we're looking at it in quarters. And if you play sports like basketball, you know there are 4 quarters in a game. Same thing here, like 4 quarters in a dollar. They're taking the data and they're splitting it into 4 parts. In the first quartile is this part here, which is from whatever the smallest number is to wherever the box begins. This is where 25% of your data is, your lowest 25. From the end of the box to the median is your next 25%. From your median to the outside of the box, or Q3, that's another 25%. And from Q3 to the maximum is your last 25%. So you have your first, second, third, and fourth quartile. So we can see everything here. Now, in the box, so you can see these 2 little dashes here are whiskers. They tell us where our highest and lowest numbers are. In this example, we can see our lowest number is 2. And our numbers go all the way, our data set, to 10. So that's why it spaces out from 2 to 10, and we can see the range from our whiskers. Our box tells us our middle part of our data. So it tells us this center part where 50% of our data really lies. And most of the time our data is clustered together. So we can see it goes from 4 to 8. So half of our data is right here between 4 and 8. We find the difference between these 2 quartiles, and that is how we find the interquartile range. We take our third quartile, our Q3, and our Q1, and if you subtract them, you can figure out the IQR, your interquartile range. So in this case, it's 8 minus 4, and that tells us we have a range of 4. Our numbers are in there. And we also use the median. And this is also helpful because it tells us where half of our data is spread out. So I know half our data is here, and I know half our data is here. So we're going to look to see how the shape of the box and what it tells us about the data. This is pretty symmetrical. Like you can just see, it looks like a perfect half. So this is pretty symmetrical, no skew, but we're going to look at how the shape of the box and whisker plot changes based on the data. We're going to practice actually making a box and whisker plot, and let's look at this first example. Miss Waters asked her students how far they walk to school, and we're asked to create a box and whisker plot with the data. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to order it from least to greatest. That way I can find my median. Okay, all my numbers are now in order from least to greatest, so I can identify my minimum. And here's my maximum. Now let's find my median. Since my n is 11, I'm going to look for the 6th number in the set. Again, all I did was I thought, well, half of 10 would be 5. So 5 in front, 5 in back, my 6th number in the middle. And so my median number is going to be the 6th one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And there's my median value. Let's draw this out so you can see what it looks like. Here's 1. Here's 12. So that's the range of my data. I'm going to draw a straight line through. And at 4 is my median. So automatically you can see that most of my data is clustered on the left. So it skews to the right. We got some outliers coming in. Let's find our Q1 and Q3. That's going to be my third step. And that means I'm going to look for the number halfway between my minimum and median and halfway between my median and maximum. So looking from here to here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers. So I'm going to choose these 2 in the middle. And I'm going to find the average of those 2 in the middle. The average of 3 and 4 is 3.5. And so that is my Q1. I'm going to do the same thing on the other end, find the 2 in the middle. So 6 and 6. Luckily, that means my average is super easy. It's just going to be 6. And this is Q3. So take a look at what this box and whisker plot looks like. What do you see and what do you notice? Well, I see that half of my data is from here from 4 to 1. So there's a cluster happening here. And then the other half of my data is really spread out. Really spread, so that means I'm going to have some gaps coming in here, and I absolutely have an outlier because it's skewed in this way. I also noticed that half of my data is over here between 3.5 and 6. So there's another cluster happening here. But notice where my median is. It's definitely pulled a little bit more to the left. So I can see I have more data clustered over here than on this end. Okay, so now you know how to draw your box and whisker plot. You're going to use your maximum and minimum to do the whiskers. Here's your minimum, here's your maximum, but you got to put your numbers in order first. Then we're going to find our median. And once we have our median, we're going to find the middle between our minimum and median. That's your Q1. And between your median and maximum, this is your Q3. And let's also find our interquartile range, our IQR. I'm going to put this for 4. IQR, which is Q3 minus Q1, and that means 6 minus 3.5 gives us 2.5. So half of our data is in this teeny tiny little range. It's between these 2.5 numbers. So that's another important thing to know. All right, Math Marbles, hit pause and jot this down into your notes. For our second box and whisker plot, I've already organized the data. This data is based on the gym teacher measuring the heights of the soccer team. So we're going to create a box and whisker plot. I've already ordered it from least to greatest, so I'm going to use these steps here to help us out. I've already done the first part, putting things in order. So let's identify our minimum and maximum. Here's our minimum. Here's our maximum. So we know our data is going from 63 to 71. I'm going to just draw this line. All right, let's find our middle number. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So our N is 11. So I'm going to look for the 6th number. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And this is our median is 67. So I'm going to add that line in there. And so half our numbers are from 63 to 67, and the other half is from 67 to 71. All right, now let's find our interquartile range. So we're going to find the middle between these two and the middle between these two. Since we have 4 numbers, I'm just going to choose the 2 in the middle. Same thing in the middle. And so this one's easy. I don't have to do any averages. This is our Q3 is 68. And for here, 65 and 66 will be 65 and a half. And that's our Q1. All right, so let's draw this out. So 65 and a half is roughly about here, and 68 is right over here. So there we go. There is our box and whisker plot. We have our minimum at 63. Our Q1 is 65.5. Our median is 67. Our Q3 is 68. And our maximum is 71. So this one looks a lot more symmetrical than the last one did. It looks pretty evened out. Matter of fact, if we're looking at the range is only a set of 8 numbers. So just looking at it, halfway would be from here to here. From here to here, there are 8 numbers. From here to here, there are already 4. So it's directly in the middle. So very symmetrical. And you can see a slight little pull happening here. There's a little gap here. So there's a bigger cluster between here than over here. They're a little bit more spaced out. So our interquartile range is the last thing we're going to do. And we're just going to subtract Q3, which is 68, minus 65.5. And that means our interquartile range is just 2.5. But the data looks pretty symmetrical. Pretty much symmetrical, more so than the other one. So hit pause and jot this down, and you're going to get some practice drawing your own box and whisker plots. They look complicated, but again, if you can do this in order and using this to help you, you'll be able to identify the key information you need. I'll see you in the next lesson, Math Marbles. Be well.